Hey, it's Kelly from MXHideout. Did you know that even if you get your dirt bike carb jetting dialed in perfectly, it's not a set it and forget it, especially if you have a carburetor. After 15 plus years of tuning 2 strokes and 4 strokes, I've learned that there are many different factors that change the jetting, whether richer or leaner, without even touching the carburetor. If on any given day you've noticed your bike running worse, whether it's harder to start, poor throttle response, less power, it's probably due to one of these 6 common things that I've discovered. Well, they're actually nothing new, but if you're new to this, you're gonna be like, oh, so that's why. The first one is temperature. So if you've noticed on a day when it's hotter or colder, your bike doesn't run quite the same. This is because as the temperature increases, the density of the air or oxygen decreases. It doesn't mean that there's necessarily less oxygen in the air, but as it gets hotter, the oxygen is farther apart, so it's less dense. So when it's cooler, the oxygen is more dense, it's closer together, and your dirt bike likes a denser air because there's more oxygen. More oxygen means you can produce more potential power. So as the air temperature increases, the density decreases, which makes your bike run worse. It makes it run richer. And if that still doesn't make sense to you, just think of it like this. You got air and gas that are being sucked in by the carburetor, and they're going into the engine, and as they ignite and combust, that's the air fuel mixture. Now if you get the right air fuel mixture, it's going to burn more efficiently and make more power. So if there's less air or more air, that's going to make it run richer or leaner. And if it's way too rich or way too lean, you're going to get those rich or lean symptoms such as sputtering or bogging. Going back to the temperature, if it's hotter, it's going to run richer automatically. This means if you want to get that efficient fuel air mixture, you're going to have to lean out the jetting. Well, how much? Well, it just depends on how much of a difference it is compared to when you had the jetting perfectly dialed in. Factor number 2 is the wind. Which direction is it coming from? You got the north wind, which pushes into the engine faster, and the south wind, which is a little bit slower, so it makes less power. I'm just messing with you. The real factor number 2 is elevation. As you go up in elevation, so starting at sea level, this would be essentially 0-foot elevation. But as you go up, like here in Minnesota, we're at about 900 to 1,000 where I am, above sea level, and then you go up to the mountains, you can get 5,000, 8,000, 10,000. As you go up, there's less oxygen in the air, which means the air is less dense. And since there's less oxygen, your bike is going to run richer. Not only that, since there's less oxygen, it's going to produce less power. This is a double whammy because running too rich makes less power, but less oxygen also makes even less power. So if you don't change your jetting at high elevation, it's going to feel really down on power. This means as you go up in elevation, assuming the temperature and humidity are the same, you're going to have to go leaner on the jetting if you want it to still start and run properly. Factor number 3 is the humidity, and this is essentially the water or moisture in the air. If you live in a dry climate like the desert in Arizona, it's going to be really dry and low humidity, but like Florida in the summer, it's going to be really high humidity. And the higher the humidity, the less dense the air is because there's more water in the air. I believe it's making the oxygen less dense. So engines do not like moisture, and this is why they make less power, and you generally have to lean them out the higher the humidity is. Let's say you got like a 60-degree day with like 30% humidity, your bike might run really great, but then if it's a 90-degree day with 80% humidity, it's going to run terrible if it was previously jetted properly. It's going to be running way too rich. It's going to be hard to start when hot and sputtering probably. Number 4 factor is intake mods. The intake is essentially the air box or anything before the carburetor or throttle body that's sucking in the air. The more air that gets shoved in through the carb to the engine, the leaner it's going to run because it's getting more oxygen in there. This means that if you have a better flowing air filter or you drill some holes in the air box, you open it up, it's more air is getting shoved in through there, allowing you to have more potential power, but only if you jet it properly. So the more air, the leaner it's generally going to run, meaning you're going to have to richen the mixture. However, on the flip side, if your air filter or your air box is clogged up with dirt and debris, it's not going going to get as much oxygen and air, making it run richer. Factor number 5 is engine mods. There are many different engine mods you could do depending on 2 or 4 stroke, and not all of them do the same thing. For example, if you're tuning for like low-end power with a cam or porting or increasing compression, that can actually cause the engine to run richer on the bottom end because it's sucking in more fuel. However, if you're tuning for top end, that can cause it to run leaner. It really just depends on which mods you do and how it works with your specific engine combination. This is why I tune based on my sounds and symptoms tuning method, because just guessing and hoping is going to take a lot longer than actually knowing if it's rich or lean. And if you want to know 6 alarming signs that your dirt bike is running too rich or too lean, I got a free guide. You can grab that in the description below. Factor number 6 is exhaust mods. This is really common if you got like a trail bike and you take off the end cap because it sounds really cool. It sounds like it has more power. That really small exhaust hole is restricting airflow. So when you take that out, it's unrestricting. So it can cause it to run leaner. However, some efficient exhaust systems can actually flow better and cause your bike to run richer. So always tune based on sounds and symptoms rather than just guessing and hoping. And if you've noticed that your bike is running rich based on a certain symptom, but you're afraid of going too lean on the jetting, there's 2 reasons why this isn't as big of a deal as you might think, although it is still a deal. You should check out this video right here to learn why. I'm Kelly Fagan from MX Hideout. Ride safe, have fun.